So Patrick Kane finally got his 500th goal tonight, and they're talking about it in the broadcast. Like, would he want to score into an empty net for his 500th goal? Is that not dramatic enough? How did you guys see that? Would you want to do that if you were about to get a real big milestone? Like, would that be the way you want to do it?
It's tough. It's obviously a big milestone. I like how Patrick put it when he was talking to Daniela Bruce after the first intermission. He said, I got the one, might as well get the second one. And I I like that mentality, but I also think that that's somebody who already has a ton of milestones behind him already, right? Like, I don't know. I think if I'm in Patrick Kane's shoes, I'm probably just gonna go for the empty net too. But I'd be in a very different spot if I was in Patrick Kane's shoes.
They don't ask how, they ask how many. Mickey Redmond said it. Like, it's the truest statement. Could have went in off his head and he wouldn't care. Like, I wouldn't care personally. Like, you get 500 goals, I don't really care how you score 500 goals.
Was he now the fifth American-born player to reach that milestone?
Yep, he's the fifth one. Yep.
That's amazing. He still got some work. I don't know if he'll catch Madonna.
And I think they said on the broadcast that he only has like 26 empty net goals too. So it's like it like softens that a little bit too.
Well, the other thing they were talking about too is I forget what Canadians player it was. If it was Beliveau, had 508, and none of them are shorthanded. And
Really?
Patrick Kane's never scored shorthanded, so he needs it was either 508 or 507, and I could be wrong on the person, but I know it was a Canadian. And like they went out of their way to say Patrick Kane's played 1 minute of penalty kill time while he's been with the Red Wings. So in 3 years. So I think he'll probably get that one as well.
Must suck for Blackhawks fans.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus podcast.
Welcome to episode 67 of the Flying Octopus podcast. I am your host, Evan Sabrin, joined by my co-host, Devin Little. And Travis Foch from Hockeytown West podcast is also joining us today. And in case you don't know what the Hockeytown West podcast is, it is your one-stop shop for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. The Griffins are on a pretty historic pace right now in the AHL. These guys are at every game. They're getting sound, talking to the Wings' top prospects. If you're not following Hockeytown West podcast, please do so. Travis, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it, man. Always good to see you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. No problem. It's always been fun to jump on with you guys and talk about Detroit, because we're talking about Toledo and GR. And when you watch as much as Detroit as I have in my life, it's fun to do this from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, they're all part of the organization, so it's all family here. On today's episode, we're going to recap the Red Wings' last 3 games against the Penguins, Senators, as well as tonight against the Canucks as we record on Thursday right after this game. The line combinations have been in flux, and we saw Todd McClellan tinkering with those this week in a very interesting format. Nate Danielson was also sent down to Grand Rapids this week, so we'll break all that down and give you our opinions on the lineups. We'll also get you ready for Sergey Fedorov's retirement ceremony and look back at some of his most memorable moments throughout his career in Detroit, while also discussing some of the events that are happening at the game and in Detroit this weekend. And before we let you go, we're going to talk more about what the Griffins are doing because, quite frankly, it's unheard of. Nate Danielson, as I mentioned, was just sent down this past week, so he's joining that wagon. Sebastian Cossa continues to dominate, so we'll reach that topic as well. And Shai Buam finally returns to practice this week, and Travis has some thoughts on that. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone where you can find us. Give us a follow on Twitter at Flying Octopod, and check us out on YouTube at The Flying Octopod. And you can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, boys, let's dive in. Detroit is tied for first in the Atlantic with the Montreal Canadiens with 56 points at the time of this recording. But as we've seen the last week, a lack of consistent play continues to haunt this team. Back-to-back losses for the Pens last week. Pittsburgh shut down the Detroit offense Zone entry was not existent in either of the games. The Penguins just clogged the middle of the ice. Sidney Crosby had his way with the Red Wings. 5 points combined in the 2 games. Looked very similar as the offense completely stalled. Heading into the Ottawa game, the lineup looked a little bit different, and I want to go over this with you guys real quick. Todd McClellan really switched things up here. Forwards, the top line was Casper paired with Larkin and Leonard. Second line, your DeBrincat, Cop, Kane line. Lucas Raymond moved down to the third line. Not a fan of that, with Comfer and Van Riemsdyk, while Finney, Rasmussen, and Appleton rounded out the fourth line. I wanted to get your quick thoughts about those line changes heading into this Ottawa game. Like, what were your reaction when you see Lucas Raymond on the third line?
Definitely a little bit of a shock. You're not necessarily anticipating that coming into the season, but the way I kind of look at it, it seemed like they were kind of committed to keeping the second line together with Cop, DeBrincat, and Kane, and then they wanted to break up Larkin and Raymond. And are you going to put Dylan Larkin on the third line? So then you're kind of just automatically, you got to put Raymond on the third line. So once you kind of work your way through it that way, I'm still with you. Like, I don't know that he belongs on the third line, but if you got to shake it up, you might as well do something a little crazy. And obviously it worked. They did win the game, but I not to get too deep in the woods on this, but I don't think Larkin and Raymond will be reunited at some point. It's been their dynamic duo for the last few years, so I'm not too concerned about this being like a new norm for the Red Wings.
I mean, it's working. They scored 10 goals in 2 games. Like, Raymond scored twice. I mean, they probably are looking at him like, you're going to be the line driver here. That second line has basically become their top line with Cop, Cat, and Kane. And then you look at Larkin. Okay, here's the 2 kids. You're the diesel engine of that line. So I think it's just trying to give a new look. And when you play as stale and as bad as they played against Pittsburgh in those 2 games, like, something had to happen. Messages had to be sent. But you're just trying to get guys going in other ways. And with the way JVR's playing and the way Raymond scored back-to-back games, that line's somehow working. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Just Lucas Raymond on the third line just feels criminal to me. But it worked in the Ottawa game, even though that was a really strange win. 5-3 win in Ottawa. Kind of got the monkey off their backs when playing the Senators. But a little weird, man. Wings were totally dominated in the first period and yet came out with a 3-0 lead. Outshot 37-21 in this one. Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond, like you mentioned, got back in the score sheet. Kopp also scored. Rasmussen, Red Wings' first shorthanded goal in the last 77 games, which was quite odd. James Van Riemsdyk got his 11th of the year, and John Gibson made 34 saves in this one, continuing his hot play. That Larkin goal was his 264th of his career, tying him with Nicklas Lidstrom for 11th on the all-time Detroit scoring list. What stood out to you in this kind of an ugly win, Devin?
What stood out to me, honestly, was just it was kind of a chippy game and just stop and start. And, obviously a lot of, 8 goals scored in the game. It felt like a kind of game where you like to see that they found a way to win. It wasn't a perfectly played game by any means. Obviously, we just talked about them, getting a new look, messing with the lines. It would have been maybe a little disheartening to see them make that dramatic of a change to the lineup and then they come out flat, right? So it was nice to see them respond. It was nice to see them, again, find a way to win. And then, since then we're seeing them, it seems like, build some momentum.
So the one thing that I have to point out quick is, you said what, 77 games?
77 games was the last time.
Oh, not to toot our horn down here, but we have 12 shorthanded goals in, I believe it's 28 games.
That's wild.
I mean, it's the coast, but still, it's crazy to talk about, right? So when you hear 1 in 77, it's like, well, when we take a penalty, we score. It's weird. I mean, for Ottawa, like, look, they were on their heels like the whole first period and somehow came out of it up, 3-0. Thank God for John Gibson, which a month and a half ago, myself included, I was like, he better figure it out. Thank God he has. And like just a timely goal too by Raymond. Like, Ottawa was getting back in it and then he scores. So all in all, I mean, a win's a win. Maybe not their best effort, but they found a way to win.
Yeah, and we all know the problems that the Red Wings have had with Ottawa over the years. So wasn't the prettiest win, but these are also the wins that we've talked about in recent years that the Red Wings weren't locking down. And, they needed John Gibson to steal one. And I think you can safely say that he helped steal that game. because the Red Wings were almost outshot 2-1 in that. And Gibson made some big saves, especially in the third. He's come around, and I think, we can be pretty happy with where he's at and the way he's been performing these last, 3-4 weeks now. So
right now, he looks like the kind of goalie that can backstop a team to the playoffs. Obviously, he has to keep it going, but I'm with you. I feel really confident about where he's at.
Fast forward to tonight, minor lineup tinkering. Emmett Finney and John Leonard switched spots, Finney moving up to the top line while Leonard went down to the fourth. Wings had another sluggish start in this one, but managed to get out of the first period again in the lead, with Patrick Kane netting his 499th career goal on the two-man advantage. Just 30 seconds left to play in the first frame. Second period, ASP off another feed from JVR. Rips home his fifth of the year to put the Wings up 2-0, and then moments later, JVR does it again with a no-look pass to Comfer right in front to put the Wings up 3-1. Where are the Red Wings without this JVR guy? I mean, Jesus Christ, he's been amazing. And it's not like, Travis, as you just said, it's not like he's, blown. It's his mind, it's his vision, it's his setting up plays and scoring timely goals. Like, this is obviously, we talked about last week, but probably Yzerman's best free agent veteran signing. I'm not going to say free agent signing. I'm going to say veteran free agent signing, because JVR is 37 years old, but man, he has been just something to watch. And some of these passes are just, that no look to Comfort just out of nowhere. He's a pretty special player. And then we move on to the third period where the Red Wings are up 3-1. Patrick Kane, after getting 499 in the first period, the Canucks pulled the goalie, and guess who was there to pot his 500th career goal? Patrick Kane. Your reaction, guys, once you saw that?
I texted our guys, like Nick and Brandon. I texted them a minute and a half before that I even knew the net was going to be empty. I was like, there was 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left. I'm like, Patrick Kane empty net goal for 500. And then all of a sudden they pull the goalie with 4.5 minutes to go. It was a total Patrick Waugh move by his former teammate. And Mickey Redmond was even like, okay, they're going to have to put him on the ice at some point in this whole situation. And I mean, as soon as he got on the ice, he scored. It was meant to be.
I think my favorite part was just seeing the bench clear as soon as he does it, and he's just swarmed by all of his teammates. Obviously, once he kind of clears up, does his little stick salute to the fans. Just special moment. I'm expecting a really cool picture to come out of that moment. I don't know who's going to post it, but that might be that, along with the picture of the pile up with the Rangers. Those might be kind of pictures that define this season, honestly.
Yeah, it's good to see Kaner. I was thinking about this today too, and I kind of feel like, for Blackhawks fans, I feel like when I saw Matt Stafford win the Super Bowl, or Justin Verlander winning the World Series with Houston, I wonder if that's how Blackhawk fans feel now, watching one of their greats, now with one of their top rivals, hitting these career milestones. That's got to be hard for Blackhawks fans.
I'll say this, if you took a Blackhawks fan and showed him that picture of Patrick Kane in a Red Wings jersey and Jonathan Taves in a Jets jersey the other night, they're going to be, if a Blackhawks fan woke up from a coma this year and saw that picture, it would be life altering, just not good.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? When did this happen? And then you find out that Patrick Kane went from the Hawks to the Rangers and then to Detroit, and it's probably even more just this. Why?
What a night for Kaner. And I'm sure him and DeBrincat and the kids are going to go out and celebrate tonight somewhere in Detroit.
Big night for his kid too. If I don't remember who he said it to, but apparently his kid was, when are you going to score it, Dad? And I'm sure his family is going to be super excited for him too.
Yeah, we also mentioned Nate Danielson being sent down to Grand Rapids this week, joining an absolute wagon with Grand Rapids, with what they're doing down there. Griffins are off to a 29-1-1 start, best start in the 90-year history of the AHL, reached the 60-point mark in 32 games, 3 faster than any team in AHL history. Travis, this team is obviously a huge wagon. Adding Nate Danielson to that makes it a huger wagon. And if, you look at the start of the season, there's not a lot of big name stars there, but they're actually just a team that plays good hockey together. So what can you tell us about Grand Rapids, more about their starters? You watch a lot more games than we do.
Well, it starts with the head coach. Dan Watson has said, talking about getting to be a close group early. That's something that he, was a big thing with him in Toledo. And then just, the biggest thing that I can say is like he said it for years, like when he was in Toledo, when you're putting on a Walleye jersey, you're a part of the Walleye. Same thing in Grand Rapids. When you're playing for the Griffins, you're putting on that Griffins jersey, you're a Griffin that day. And I mean, you look at like their record speaks for itself, right? 29-1-1-1. They have 62 points in 32 games, 19 game point streak currently. And they have a guaranteed winning record through March 19th. Like, that's insane stuff, right? And, you look at like just what some of these vets have had on some of these younger players. Like, Nate comes down yesterday, gets an assist. You look at what like Wallander the last couple of weeks he has gotten noticeably better the last couple of weeks, but Tumisto's having a huge year for the Griffins, like a massive year for him. Kosa, like you can't talk about this team and not talk about him. Back-to-back goaltenders of the month for the American League. Like, it's time. I've said it. It's time. They have an open roster spot now. It's not a shot at Cam Talbot, but like they've rewarded play elsewhere with call-ups for guys. Like you have to see what you have before the trade deadline. You can't wait until then, because if somebody calls you, like, and I said it on our show and I'll say it on here, like, say they were to call up Kosa, right? Like, you got to know what you have between now and March, because if somebody calls you and offers you something for Talbot, I mean, you kind of, and if you think you can roll Gibson Kosa into the down the stretch, or worst case scenario, you call him up for a few games and you end up sending him back down. Like, I don't know. I think they got to get him a look at some point, but just the team as a whole, they're playing as a group of 5 every shift. It doesn't matter who it is. Their power play has been a little weak the last few games. Nick pointed that out to us last night, but then I was like, well, they're 11th in the league still. Like, they're still doing all right. Penalty kills top in the league. Like, they're just playing great hockey, and like they've got guys out, right? Lombardi hurt, Mazer hurt, and they've got 2 guys from Toledo playing every day. Well, Moyle's day to day right now, but like it doesn't matter who's in the lineup. They expect to win every night. That's one thing that the guys have said, like, and they see it more than I do. Like, I see it here and there occasionally. Like, I got to watch the other night, but like, even the like nights where they maybe don't have their A game, they win. Last night, I think it was last night, I don't know, my days are rolling together, against Texas, like, they had double the shots and it was a dogfight, but they just figure out ways to win games.
And we mentioned earlier that Shai William is now practicing with the team, so you're adding Nate Danielson and a pretty legit defender to the Griffins lineup. What do you think how do you think that plays out?
I don't think anybody has any idea, man. Like, I'm serious. Like, they got to rotate guy. It's just going to continue to be a rotation. I really think it is. Shai's missed 4 months of gameplay. Like, he ain't going to play every single night right off the rip. So, I mean, that'll probably be like a strategic deployment until he gets his feet underneath him. Like, there's practice ready, and then there's, okay, you can play, but then I got to get into game shape. Like, it's 2 different things, 3 different things. So I think with him, like, he showed he had the potential to do it last year, but he's missed a lot of time. So, I mean, it might be till February, March before he even looks somewhat normal again. Like, it's going to take time. I honestly thought there would be a potential for him to just go get 2 or 3 games in Toledo just to get the timing down. They did it with Tumisto a couple of years ago. So that was something I had thought of just as like hey, go get a couple games underneath you just to, so you're not just jumping back in off the deep end. But I mean, yeah, you get like for Nate too, I'll go into him a little bit. Like, sometimes he tries to do just a little bit too much and he'll lose the puck. And I think it's just simplify. But it's good to see that he's trying stuff, because that's one thing that Todd said the other day in one of the after practice press conferences is they want him to be like more assertive offensively and more like in it offensively. So, and he got a point the other night on Austin Watson's goal.
And Michael Brenzig-Nygaard, 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points in 27 games. What are you seeing out of him?
Yeah, he's really clicking. when he gets open ice and shoots the puck, it's like, okay, he's going to put it through the net. He's physical. I think the best thing for him was them sending him down because he's kind of found his scoring touch a little bit. He's playing top 6 minutes. Like he's playing in an important role. He continues to develop. That could be a guy down the stretch. Maybe you don't make a trade. Maybe you call him up as GR gets maybe a couple guys from overseas in. He's had NHL games. I don't know. It's just something that I've thought of recently. You get to the deadline and it's, well, maybe we don't want to spend a future on a guy to come in that maybe one of our rookies can come up and do. Especially because GR could potentially be seeing 2 forwards come in anyways. So who knows?
I like the point you made there at the very end, and it's actually I'm going to kind of backtrack a little far here, but I think that's kind of been on my mind really all season is that at some point they gotta. I'm going to reiterate your point here. They got to know what they have in Kosa because I actually think they almost need to move Talbot. They don't need to in the sense that like it's not going to work if they don't do it. But if Trey Augustine is going to go pro at the end of his season, and depending on the timeline of when that is, obviously that could impact this. But it's I don't know that Augustine's going to play a lot of games of Kosa and Postava are in Grand Rapids. I mean, you're probably going to give him at least a game or two just to like get him initiated, so to speak. But I feel better about him really getting his feet wet, whether in the AHL, if Talbot is if Kosa's up basically, because then he's removed from the picture. So I just building on that point, I think they could do that in a lot of ways. You mentioned Brandseg Nygaard. I think that could be a way too. You have maybe Jesse Kiskinen comes in at the end of his season, right? Maybe he's going to play some games with the Griffins, create a spot for him by moving up NBN. We're entering the fun part of the rebuild where there's a lot of young talent percolating and a lot of it's kind of coming to a head all kind of almost at the same time, right? And we're already at a point where they got to like seriously consider moving some guys out so that way they can kind of keep a flow of prospects going. They're going to want to have playing time for a lot of their prospects in North America. There's only so many roster spots to go around, so it's a fun time. And I guess also one final point too is like was already said, Lombardi's out, Mazur's out. They didn't have Danielson until recently. Even MBN didn't start the season there. Leonard's been up and down. Despite all of this, the Griffins are having a literal record-breaking opening of their season, record-breaking start to their season. That's insane, and it's like scary to think that like this team could actually be like leagues better too, because Carter Mazur has been a phenomenal player at the AHL level. Excuse me, and Danielson's been really effective too. So, and Lombardi, all of them have been effective at that level. So, to steal your phrasing here, Evan, Griffins are a wagon. I think my only concern right now is they kind of have the season that the Boston Bruins did 2 or 3 seasons ago, where
Don't put that out there. Don't put that out there. The guys will kill you.
Yeah, okay.
Brandon, didn't you show up to one of their losses?
I sure did. Yeah, I'm going to stay away for a little bit.
So he's banned.
But yeah, I definitely believe in a little adversity along the way. So I'll leave it at that.
One point I want to make quick before we move on. You talked about Kosa. Like, if you go back on the Red Wings, you can literally just search it on YouTube. Like the waiting in the wings of Kosa when he was down here. One thing that he said, and this is 3 years ago now that he was here, it was, I want to dominate at every level before I move up. And like you seen towards the end in Toledo, he went on this 10-0 run where he had like a 970 save percentage and like a sub 1 goals against average at one point. And then now he's lost 2 games all year. I think he's like 16-1 or 16-2. So it's silly what his numbers are. I don't have them pulled up right in front of me. It's either 1 loss. I think it's 1 loss. Like he's beginning to dominate at that level. Like that's where I come back to. It's time. Like you have to do this. And like Devin, you bring up an interesting point with Trey. Like, there's a lot of like people that are like, he might not sign. Like, if there's nowhere to go, I mean, there's a chance that he doesn't, right? Like, if you're not going to play, like, what's the point? You could always just wait till next year and then go from there. But I just think it's time to get him up for sure. And they'd be in great hands. They would be in great hands. Postava's been great. And then Carter, who's in Toledo, that guy should be in the American League full time. He has proven it. He just had a .950 save percentage in 3 games in Toledo the last week. So it's amazing how bare the cupboard was in net like 3 years ago to how like we have a problem here. So it's exciting because I love goaltenders. It's probably my favorite position. So it's going to be fun to watch this all unfold.
Yeah, and Trey Augustine in 20 games, 1.69 goals against, .938 save percentage. It's good things are happening in the crease for Detroit, which is something that's been a problem for a long time. So it's really exciting to see almost all of them are flourishing at the same time. And yeah, for Grand Rapids to go from Kosa, hopefully to Augustine, that's going to be a pretty great transition. He's going to be a fun one to watch. And talking about the trade deadline that's coming up after the Olympic break, what kind of moves do you think the Red Wings need to make? For me, you got to find that second pairing defenseman that you can pair up with ASP or find someone that can move ASP down the lineup so you can shelter him if and when this team does make the playoffs. Where do you think the Red Wings go if they are going to make a trade at the deadline? Trav, I'll start with you.
Well, I'm the opposite. I want Rasmus Andersson myself. And this is why, because they're already sheltering ASP's minutes, like especially down the stretch of games. Like he's not playing a lot. I think if they could get to a point to where their third pair is Sherratt and ASP is your third pair, they'd be in great shape. Now the only argument would be like how far away is Anton Johansson, who's in Sweden right now? Because that would be a guy that maybe plays a little heavier, provide that bigger body presence on the right side. But like again, like could be a couple years away. Like probably use a year in GR potentially. That's where I think if the iron's hot, you got to kind of strike. So I think they should go defense, and I don't think Rasmus Andersson's a bad option myself. He may not like be the Quinn Hughes, but we just need steady defensemen. Like we desperately need it, especially that can play top 4 minutes, and he can do it, right? Like I just don't see what the bad is. And I haven't really looked ahead out there. I've always been kind of Rasmus Andersson myself.
Kevin, any trade targets that you'd favor?
I would agree that defense is where my focus is at. I think that there's some spots in the forward group that would be nice to address, but it's definitely not, if I can only do one thing, I'm looking at defense. I'm kind of torn between thinking they could really, they didn't get Quinn Hughes, but they could still make a big swing. Maybe they do entice Columbus to consider moving Zach Werenski. I don't know if that's even a possibility, but just, something crazy like that. But also, I think there's also a real opportunity for them just to like get a guy who's maybe a pending free agent, but also if the fit's there, you can justify giving them an extension to, depending on terms. But a guy that comes to mind for me is Mario Ferraro from San Jose. He's been a steady guy on some bad teams over there. Kind of a defensive defenseman, that type of defenseman. He's never really been a big offensive guy, but he has experience being relied upon to play big minutes. And he wouldn't necessarily be relied upon to play those types of minutes in Detroit. And I also don't know that because he's a pending free agent that he would cost like top dollar. I don't know that he'd come cheap, but I think he'd be cheaper than other options Detroit could get, while also addressing that need for an additional left-handed defenseman. I do wonder about Rasmus Andersson. I like the player. I just don't know about the fit with the Red Wings, only because of Axel and Pellikka. Honestly, if it happens, I'm not going to complain, because I think if you have a right side of Seider, Anderson, and Axel Pellikka, you're looking pretty good. my focus is definitely on the left side. But I guess there's plenty of options out there.
Nothing to say they couldn't go get both.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Like fix both of your problems.
You basically just like you replace your third line at that point, right? You don't have to. Yeah, it's probably your second line is Ferraro and Anderson, and then you have Sherratt and Sandy Pellick on the third line. That was pretty damn good, doesn't it? I'm very interested to see how aggressive Yzerman is as we get closer to the deadline. I'd like to actually see him kind of get ahead of the rush, so to speak, and maybe make an early move, help that player settle in and get chemistry going before the deadline comes, and maybe allow them to get a look at what they look after patching this hole and see what opportunities are to patch the next one are. But we'll see if that happens.
I think there's two teams the Red Wings should target right now, and my top choice would be Pavel Mintyukov, which we talked about probably a month back when those rumors were getting hot, and then Anaheim's like in a free fall right now. They've lost 8 in a row, and then you got Vancouver, and here's a guy, Devin, that you and I have talked about probably the last 2 seasons, and Marcus Pettersson. He could become available. Another guy that I'd really like because he is a defensive defenseman with length. I think, Mintyukov, I've always been a fan of him. I think he's a great puck-moving defenseman. He's still young. I'm not sure what it would take to get him. You'd probably have to give up a first and a prospect, maybe. I mean, the guy was a 10th overall pick in his draft year. Good player. And yeah, Pettersson, I think is more of a defensive defenseman. Mintyukov gives you a little bit of both, but I think a move has to be made sooner than later here, and I really would prefer if it came before the Olympic break. But again, it's hard to tell what's going on in Yzerman's head.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, when do you define early? Like, I don't know. I don't see a big move before the break, the Olympic break. I think you got to get to there and see where you're at, right? Because that's like the whole month of February, and then it's gonna really heat up quickly. And let's be real. Teams talk throughout that. Like, you can't make deals, but you can have conversations. So that like there's going to be some stuff talked about over that 2-3 weeks that is really going to, like, they're going to be playing games overseas, but there's going to be rumors flying around because the deadline's not long after.
Yeah, Dylan Larkin buddying up with his buddy Werenski. Werenski's going to take a haul though too, probably just like Quinn Hughes. It's going to be the same kind of thing.
I don't think it's quite that much.
I think it's like one step lower.
Yeah.
Yep.
You might have to only give up 3 pieces versus 4.
Player.
And the guy loves Detroit. Hey, and Winnipeg's also, if we start looking at the forward group, like Winnipeg's, I cannot believe how far off they've fallen with the worst record in the league. That is nuts to me. And I was always upset. I really wanted them to bring Kyle Connor home before he signed that big deal. Wonder if there's something
still go get him.
I know. I wonder if there's still something there for the assets. That's another guy that you're gonna have to give up the bank for, because he's another top forward that I'd love to have on this team. He is a goal scorer. That's the kind of elite goal scoring that I still think this team needs. They just need one more, I think. One more. And then, we saw David Pagnotta this week in the 4th period talking about Kiefer Sherwood, who the Red Wings played tonight. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent this year. Won't cost much. 30 years old, bit of a grinder, 2-way player, agitator. I know we talked before, Evan, kind of player like Tyler Bertuzzi, who I really miss, and who's having a fucking career year right now with the Blackhawks. He's guy's on pace for 40 fucking goals. What do you think about the forward group? Do you think there's a trade to be made there?
I mean, I think there is. I think there's definitely opportunities to make deals there, and like you were just saying, Bertuzzi has definitely come to my mind recently. I don't know that Chicago is interested in moving him. I think you can always entice a team to at least consider it, but I think it might take a little too much for them to consider moving him. I think he's actually an important piece for them. But I mean, reunite the Larkin Bertuzzi Raymond line. I mean that'd be fun. I mean he'd also, I think, provide a spark to the third line. It just gives you more options. But I think he does a lot of what they need right now. But I think even if it's not Tyler specifically, I think that there will be players like that they consider. Obviously, they played Sherwood. I think he's a similar type of player. I don't I don't think he's ultimately. I think he's ultimately going to end up with a team that's closer to a championship than the Red Wings are.
Right.
But I guess that's just kind of an example of the fact that you'll still find players like Bertuzzi out there. If they're getting a forward, I imagine it'll be a forward with jam that has that plays that type of game. It'll be a playoff type of forward. I don't necessarily see them going out and getting Artemi Panarin or anything like that. But you never know. Maybe they surprise us and they go out and maybe this is the year they go out and get Elias Pettersson, right? Maybe they didn't get Quinn, but they got him instead. But I very much think that getting this roster to as close to like a playoff, not just playoff caliber, but a playoff mold as possible will kind of be what Yzerman focuses on, and that'll be on defense and potentially on offense as well.
Yeah, the reported price for Sherwood is a first-round draft pick, and I'm not comfortable with giving that up for a 30-year-old unrestricted free agent at the time.
That's a Tampa move. Like I said before we started recording, that's like right up what Julian Breezewall's gone and got over the years. You'll get like Nick Paul, guys like that. I mean, it's the same thing. Blake Coleman, and there's rumors he could be available from Calgary, so we'll see.
That's another team that could fire sale Calgary. We just talked about Rasmus Anderson, but that's another team that could be looking to move. You got to poach these. You got to poach these teams when they're down. You know, kick them while they're down. Take for what you can get, man. All right, boys. Shifting gears here now. Sergey Fedorov jersey retirement ceremony is coming up quickly here on Monday, January 12th. The polarizing forward ranks 6th all-time on the Wings' career scoring list with 400 goals, 554 assists, 954 points, and 908 games played. If you've listened to this show before, you know that he has always been one of my he is my personal favorite athlete of all time. I still remember the days, the early days when he came to Detroit and the kind of vibe that shifted around the city when this guy came in, because he was something special. You know, he was one of the first Russians. There were a few before him, Sergei Makarov, Fatizov, Larionov, but he was one of like the first, well, McGillney too. But he was just this prototypical, looked like a rock star, this good looking, long flowing hair, moved like no one I had ever seen. And it's funny because at that time, Barry Sanders was also on the scene in Detroit, and I think Fedorov came in a year or two after Barry Sanders came to the Lions, and it was almost like the same thing for me, because when I watched Barry Sanders, I thought, wow, I'd never seen, a running back, a player, move in the way he did, and that's how I felt about Fedorov when he first entered the league, because he became a star very quickly. And what he meant to this Red Wings organization in the 90s, the Red Wings aren't winning all those cups without a Sergey Fedorov. You know, he was the star. He was the last Red Wing to win a Hart Trophy. You could play him, and defensively he was responsible. He won a Selke. He was like the heart and soul of this Red Wings team, because when he came in, Yzerman was starting to get like a little bit older, and he had been injured, and Yzerman kind of like changed his game to more of a defensive forward role towards the end of his career, while Fedorov was the engine that drove the Red Wings through all those playoff runs. He was a playoff performer. He was a rock star in Detroit. And I always say about Sergey Fedorov, like, man, he is lucky there wasn't cell phone cameras back in the day, because he had a rumor of there was a lot of talk about Sergey's bad boy image. And I'll never forget, I worked at WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit for a while in the 90s. And I remember one of the producers there telling me, saying, if Sergey Fedorov wanted to be the Michael Jordan of hockey, he could be, because he had all the talent in the world. But there were times where he would look disinterested or whatever. But when he was on his game, he was one of the best in the NHL by far. Wayne Gretzky, I think, even came out and said it. I mean, once that Russian five was put together, and just it went off to another level. But Sergey was something special. And I entered that Fedorov Forever contest, and they're like, you have 500 characters to talk about what Sergey Fedorov meant to you. I didn't realize what that was. The contest was. I just wanted the free tickets and the free beer. But it's it's hard to describe in 500 characters of what he's meant to this organization. And the biggest part that I love about this retirement ceremony, when we had Keith Gave on, Devin, and that's the one line I'll always remember from that interview when we asked him what was his reaction to the Red Wings announcing that they were going to retire his number, and he would say, "Is Marian Ilitch still breathing?" And it just feels like it's finally come full circle now that, I'll play this soundbite right here, and I want you guys to listen to this real quick.
It's not so much that I leave, it's just a business side to it all. I regret that by far. That's the most and probably the only regret I would have. I should have stayed with the Red Wings for the longest time. But, like we say, until you try it, you don't know what it is.
To hear that, it got really dusty. It got really dusty in my room when I was listening to it on my phone. And just to see him back with the organization, maybe there's a role for him somewhere down the line, which I would absolutely love to see. But to see him say that he regrets all that stuff that happened, when he signed the offer sheet for Carolina, Red Wings came back, matched it, the bad blood between him and the Ilitch organization, just to see him back now. And, saying that he regrets all that stuff that happened, saying he wished he had stayed with the Red Wings organization for his entire career. It just, it melts my heart. I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited for this ceremony on Monday. I will be there in tow, probably, bawling like a 5-year-old. But yeah, what did you guys think about Fedorov's career?
I would say he was like the first true superstar, like superstar, like vibes, like flair for the dramatic, like at least that's what it felt like for me. Now, granted, I told Evan this the other day. I was 6 when he left, so like I didn't really see him enough. Like, but you go back and watch, and it's like, dude probably could have won the Norris if he played defense. Like that's probably the one thing. Like that's the one thing that really always stood out to me is like how good he was defensively. Like you think of what the 5-goal game against Washington, the one-handed goal against Vancouver in the 0-2 playoff run, like just so many like crazy moments with him. I mean, he was the goal against the Capitals in the finals in '98. That was where he cut across the middle and went back against the grain against Kolzig. It was just like he was a vibe, like the skates. You think of the white Nike skates, like he was different, man. He was a new vibe to the team, to the organization. Like it sucks he left. Obviously, he's come out and said he regrets leaving, but like this should have happened 10 years ago. Like, so I'm glad that it is finally happening though.
I agree. So back to my playing days when I was a child, my first number was 91. That would be because he was my mom's favorite player. I was definitely a mama's boy, but and in my bedroom growing up, I had a picture of Steve Yzerman and Sergey Fedorov standing next to each other. Even if I was too young to fully appreciate how good of a player Sergey Fedorov was, he's been synonymous with the Red Wings for me since I was a literal child. So it definitely feels right to me too. He's just one of those guys that you think, name 10 Red Wings, and I'm sure he's going to be somebody that comes up at some point. An all-world talent. I feel like he kind of popularized two-way play in a way. Like he kind of showed you can still be an offensive stallion and get back on defense and make it look good. In a day and age where, people want to put up stats like Wayne Gretzky. Obviously, Sergey Fedorov didn't put up 2,000 points. He put up 1,100, almost 1,200. But no one's going to tell anybody that Sergey Fedorov was not a phenomenal hockey player. Obviously, his impact on the sport, impact on hockey in Detroit is it's hard to quantify. Honestly, I feel like that's a perfect way of putting it, Evan. It's hard to quantify or describe in 500 characters. You need years to really kind of embody what Sergey Fedorov what meant to the city of Detroit and the Detroit Red Wings. And yes, probably should have happened a long time ago, but no better time than right now, I guess.
Yeah, I can't profess my man love in 500 characters. My man crush for Sergey Fedorov. He was something special. And one of the things I was trying to write, I was trying to figure out like something like, that would stick out, something like that was, not just like, hey, dude, I remember that 5-goal game, or, when you score that big goal against the Flyers. But I kind of thought like, the best part about this memory for me, and when I go home to and seeing this on Monday, it's something that reminds me of my childhood. It's that memory of falling in love with the game. And, he was one of the biggest reasons why. I mean, I was a Red Wings fan, long before he was there. And I remember the early Yzerman years. But when Sergey came, he obviously came when you had Lidstrom and Konstantinov, and the whole trajectory of the team at that point had changed. And that's when they started really becoming good and, competing for Stanley Cups every year. But the best thing for me is just the memory of, growing up. He was on the team like between my middle school and college years, and just all those memories of whether it's barbecues with your friends, or going to games, or going out with your friends, and everyone's around the TV watching the Red Wings, because back then they were must-see TV every night. So that's the biggest part for me, and I would not doubt if I got a little misty-eyed during this ceremony. So we'll see what happens. Couple of things they're doing. I guess they're having an exclusive tribute book called 91, A Salute to Sergey Fedorov. It's going to be available for purchase during the game. There was a pre-sale going on. Book was written by longtime Red Wings columnist Bob Duff and details Fedorov's defection from Russia to join the Red Wings. But yeah, they're giving away a 91 pin to all the fans that come in the door. And they're opening up early at 4:20. Weird. Which is an hour earlier than usual, and they're encouraging fans to be in their seats by 5:30. So, they got some special stuff that they haven't announced everything yet. But yeah, it would have been nice to win that Forever Fedorov Ultimate Fan Experience contest. You got 2 all-inclusive Labatt Club tickets and 1 parking pass, 2 seats at a pregame rinkside chat and a meet and greet with Fedorov, 2 copies of that 91, A Salute to Sergey Fedorov, 2 exclusive Fedorov merchandise items. That would have been nice. But and then they're going to have the Stanley Cup, the Hart Memorial Trophy, the Frank J. Selke Trophy, and the Lester B. Pearson Trophy on display near the team store by the Meyer entry in the Southwest. And then there's going to be a 91 fan section. Dedicated lower bowl section on the east side of the arena will feature white 91 numerals formed by white t-shirts with red shirts filling in the remainder of the section. Fans are encouraged to wear these shirts throughout the game. And then, the Red Wings aren't stupid. They're going to load up the store there with some Fedorov merch. And, I'm concerned about that, especially like we just got off Christmas, and, I'm probably going to I'm just scared. I'm just scared. My wife's scared about, what I could do with a whole store full of Fedorov merchandise, because I'm just a dumbass is what happens when I get into that store. I've only been in it once. You've been in the store, right?
Yeah. I almost walked away with some stuff last time, and I had to really restrain myself. I always say to the guys, that's what they make credit cards for, but that's a bad life choice in its own right. So
yeah. I'm glad you reminded me of that, Trev, because you have to call the credit card company when you travel from out of state, because they'll decline it and be like, oh, why is he, your Bank of America will call you and be like, well, why is there this $500 purchase at some weird place in Detroit, Michigan? And I don't want to be explaining that in front of everybody with my card declined. That's a good reminder for me to do that before I hit that. Yeah, it's going to be a great night, and I think the city of Detroit's really going to respond, and I can't wait to get it started. All right. We're going to start to wrap up here, but before we do, Devin's going to hit us with a couple news and notes. Red Wings legend passing this week, Devin. He was a pretty big figure at one point in the organization way back in the day, but hit us up on your news and notes.
Yeah, surprised to say if I was a child when Sergey Fedorov was playing, I definitely was not around when this guy. But our condolences to the family of Glenn Hall. Obviously passed away. He was 94, lived a great life. Stanley Cup champion, played 18 seasons, split between the Red Wings, the Blackhawks, and the St. Louis Blues. Goaltender. One of those. I don't know. To me, he's always been one of those guys that he's a hockey name. Like he's kind of in that category of like Alex Delvecchio and Ted Lindsay. Like not necessarily like Red Wings greats, but like in you look back at hockey history, he's just one of those names that really stands out. And obviously great career. Rest in peace. Best wishes to his family. Any either of you guys have anything to say about Glenn Hall?
Absolutely. Probably the most unbreakable record in all of sports, potentially, with
502.
502 consecutive straight starts. That's insane stuff,
It's
man.
insane.
Like I had to go back the other day and was like, when did a goalie even start 70? And it was Cam Talbot I think it was 2017. And then like I think Mika Kiprusoff did it twice. Like that's never gonna happen ever.
Mm-hmm.
Not in today's world. So, and that's in the no mask era. Like you got to think about that. Like that's even crazier. So,
can you imagine that?
Yeah, no mask, no backup, 502 straight. Like that is the ultimate Iron Man streak.
Yeah, for real.
Like 500 now for a goalie is like they get a silver stick for 500 games. I'm pretty sure. So like he did it in a row. Like just think about that, man. Like that's crazy.
When you think about that old school hockey and how they didn't wear masks, and you see those pictures of Terry Sawchuk's face just ripped apart, like I can't even imagine. You got Bobby Hull coming down the wing with a 105-mile-per-hour slapper, and you have no mask on. Like, wouldn't that kill somebody? I feel like that would kill somebody if it hit you in the right spot, right? Like, it's insane to me what these goalies did, but I think that's why we love the sport, because the goalies are always been a different breed, and Glenn Hall was definitely a different breed and a very special player in the Red Wings organization.
Absolutely. Looking ahead now, we have Travis here, our jersey aficionado. They always make new jerseys for this event. The next Winter Classic was announced. It is going to be in Utah. It seems, natural whenever they have add a new team or a new brand even for into the NHL. They get some big event pretty soon after. So I'm actually pretty excited about this one. It'll be the Utah Mammoth against the Colorado Avalanche, playing at the basically the University of Utah's football stadium. I think that Utah will show up for this. I like the setting. There's the mountains are gonna be in the distance. Cold weather. We discussed at length the thing that happened in Florida last week. I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I'm optimistic about this one. I feel like it kind of gets back to what the Winter Classic, just what the vibe of that event is supposed to be. And I think both teams have a chance to really show out in terms of their uniforms as well.
So
yeah, Trav was in Utah this offseason, so he can tell us all about that area.
Yeah, man, that place was incredible. The Delta Center's sweet. Utah went very high up on a favorite team list, of teams that are fun to watch. And if you're gonna go to a game there, and you're gonna sit in that lower bowl, especially on the ends, do not drink, because you're gonna go down the stairs and you're gonna end up on the first D pair by the time you hit the boards. But I was there. So for everybody, I was there the day that the Mammoth jersey dropped. That it was available for sale. It just happened to be the game I went to. I stood outside with a bunch of fans, talking to fans, getting to know fans. They'll show up. That place will be sold out. That place is going to be amazing. They have a very loyal fan base. That place was packed for a preseason game. It was unreal. Literally, you can have the most beautiful color on color jersey matchup in this. Put the Avs in all burgundy, put the foot on the front to give Utah the middle finger for not getting the Yeti through. And then for Utah, the baby blue, that ice blue with the U with the tusk on it, that'd be so good. So hopefully something like that comes. But yeah, I mean, I told my dad, I was like, dude, that's one I'd travel to go to, and I would go to the Delta Center again.
Yeah, it's they're playing at the University of Utah stadium, correct?
Yeah, and it's not far from the Delta Center. It's probably 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad they're trying to kind of get back to their roots. I guess last week's the NHL Winter Classic failed to reach 1 million viewers for the second year in a row.
I got something on that.
Yeah.
It's not always about the TV views.
Yeah.
I'll say this, it's about the people that get to go to it. And like I seen so much last week about like this was the greatest sporting event I've ever gone to. This was the coolest thing I've ever been to in my life. Like Florida fans that have, been in the league for over 30 years at this point, never have had anything like that. And like I'll be honest, like they showed up, like, and a credit to the Rangers fans too, because they traveled. Now, I mean, probably should have been a stadium series against Tampa, but either way, the market got to host it. It's for the fans in the market. It's not so much for TV anymore. Like they've done it so much that to watch it on TV is not the same. It's about going to the event for me at least. And you really seen it last year in Columbus too. Like that was insane.
I just felt like, yeah, and Devin was at that game, and I just feel like it's not, it needs to be outdoor first off, and obviously you can't do that in Florida. But it just some of it seemed a little tacky to me. It's watching these guys in Miami Vice outfits rolling up in, their Ferraris, trying to like and relive the Don Johnson days. It just, I don't know. It didn't have that same appeal, feel like, you saw on social media this week. And Devin and I talked about this last week. They showed side by side of, the big house in 2015 next to an indoor stadium in Miami. There's something about it that's just doesn't feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's authentic,
All right. But you're trying to compare like one of the Winter Classics that's in a completely different tier. Like,
Yeah.
like that game and the first one are like the S tier, and then there's everything else underneath it basically. And like, to be fair, think about this too. They played Vegas and Seattle at the Mariners Park with a retractable roof also. So like let's not forget, and that's in the Pacific Northwest. So they've done it before.
We said last week, like, it would be cool if it was more like just find another authentic location. It doesn't have to be, in someone's team stadium or in that state. Put it in some Mystery Alaska. Do that. Do that for a Winter Classic.
You want to know what I literally said to my dad the other day?
What? Great movie?
Well, great movie. Take the original 6 all to Alaska and play a 6-team tournament.
There you go.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
Like I set it out for my dad. You take the original 6, they all go to Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. You build a temporary 15,000 seat arena that's all outdoors. They're seeded 1 through 6 with play based off of the open air till Christmas. 1 and 2 get a bye based off points percentage because nobody would have the same amount of games played. And then 3 would play 3 and 6 would play 2, or good God.
Yeah, you got it.
Jesus Christ.
I was told there'd be no math today.
Yeah. 3 would play 6 and 4 would play 5. And then the losers of those quarterfinal games would play in a consolation game. The losers of the semis would play, and then there'd be a championship game. And it's all regular season points. You can't tell me the original 6 fans would not flood to Alaska. It would totally happen. Like, I think it's a recipe for success, but it will never happen.
They would. And the TV, but you get the TV viewership too. Like you
would totally get it there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Start tweeting at the NHL, Trev.
To some extent, I like the way you just like the. Does that mean the Winter Classic has almost become like a concert? Because like every stop of the concert's basically the same thing. Like you're not seeing anything necessarily different, but it's more so for the fans in that area to see the show. Like, has the Winter Classic become like a concert?
I don't know. You want another wild matchup?
What do you got?
They're playing in it next year, but take Colorado to Quebec.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's a perfect one. Yeah,
like, and then have the Avs wear Nordique jerseys because it's the closest Quebec will ever get to an NHL team. Like, take them to Montreal and have them play outside somewhere. You can't tell me that wouldn't sell. They'd probably have to bring in extra seats for the people coming from Quebec to watch it.
And those new Quebec jerseys that the Avalanche wore a couple weeks ago were fire.
There's so many fun avenues you could go down, and like that's one. We did a Patreon show about it, but something at Lambeau, like the frozen tundra. I forget if it was Nick or Brandon that brought that up.
That would be cool, and I'm surprised that hasn't been looked into yet.
Yeah,
I don't know why Wisconsin doesn't have a team. Wisconsin should have a hockey team. That would do so well there because all they have is the Packers.
Yeah,
and it's a hockey state.
Yeah, there's so many this for me is what bothers me with it. Like especially the Winter Classic. Like You don't need to go to Wrigley twice. You don't need to go to Fenway twice. It loses its luster when you go to the same place more than one time. Like if Detroit was to ever host another one, better not be in Ann Arbor. It should be at Comerica, first of all. And then try different things. Like go back to Tahoe and put a 10, 15,000 seat arena. Like they literally build them for golf events. Like it's possible. Baseball did it for the Field of Dreams. That a lot of people don't even know that stadium's gone. Like the original place that they played it, that stadium was tore down. That was a 100% temporary stadium. Like you can expand the box here. Now the problem is the NHL runs, but they want money. And I don't think 15,000 fans in a temporary seat's going to give them enough money because they're not getting 30 to 40,000 or 50,000. That's I think their hold up with something like that. But that, like with what I said with that tournament, you're going to eventually get to those numbers if you play handful of games total. So
you'll get the sponsors and the TV viewership too with that. I think that's and you sell the Mystery Alaska story. I think that's genius. That's 2 points for you, Trev. Good job. All right, Devin, round us out here. Last one.
And then of course, World Juniors ended. Team Sweden. We love Team Sweden if we're talking about the Red Wings, right? Team Sweden won gold. Red Wings prospect Eddie Genborg, second round pick in this past year's draft, had 3 goals and 8 points in 7 games. Continued to play the heavy style game that he is known for playing. And other WJC Red Wings related news, Carter Bear is a bronze medalist. Team Canada took home the bronze. So 2 Red Wings prospects bringing home medals from that tournament. Boys, do you have any thoughts on the World Juniors?
The hype train on Eddie Genborg is continuing to grow. He's, as we said last week, he looks like a shit disturber. And, when we talk about guys like Kiefer Sherwood or, Bertuzzi earlier in the show today, hopefully he might be that kind of guy that comes in that has that mean, nasty streak. And, I'd love to see a line, I think I said, of Casper, MBN, and Eddie Genborg just crushing teams on the third line or maybe even the second line if the scoring picks up. But yeah, the hype train is getting bigger with him. He's a name, obviously he's one of the more recent draft picks, but he's a name sometimes people forget when they started thinking about prospects in this organization. And to be honest, like the last year, I feel like I've heard more about Eddie Genborg than I've even heard about Carter Bear. Trev?
No, I mean, you're just glad for the success. I feel bad for Carter Bear. He basically didn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of thoughts on Canada. I'm just not going to say anything. I'm from America, but man, Canada, you just shake your head at some things they do.
All right, guys. With that, we're going to wrap episode 67 here of the Flying Octopus podcast. On deck for the Red Wings, they will play Montreal on Saturday in Montreal, Monday at home versus Carolina for the big day for the Fedorov retirement ceremony. And then it's off to Boston that night, Tuesday, to take on the Bruins. It's kind of the Red Wings have just been getting shitty back-to-backs lately. But we'll be back on Friday with another episode of the Flying Octopus podcast. Thank you for joining all of us. Any last thoughts, boys? That's why I love
Year.
Happy New Year. There you go. All right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.